Hello everyone, welcome to a new video for Bitcoin price prediction based on Elliott wave analysis. We start today with the all-time history for Bitcoin to remind you where are we and what we are looking at. So we have finished in the first 4 years, we have finished a wave 1, a wave 2, and then 3, 4, and a 5 impulse toward the upside through the cycles, 3 cycles that we have in 12 years. We have finished a wave 1 or a wave 5 here or a wave A. And that means you are looking for an A, B, and a C toward the upside, or you are looking for a 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5 continuation for higher prices. Now, after this wave 1, A, or 5, you see 5 waves, of course, toward the downside, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. But, of course, this can be an A, B, and a C, of course, corrective, where you have, of course, an impulse 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for your wave C here. It is not, of course, an impulse toward the downside. After this, we start, of course, a bigger impulse for higher prices. This is the last bull run that we got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a wave 1 finished here, and you're looking at a wave 2 again toward the downside. It's supposed to be, of course, like 3 waves. Of course, it can be a triangle as well, or a W, X, and a Y complex structure. However, if this transforms to a triangle, therefore we have to consider that we're going to have a wave C as, of course, a corrective wave, 3 waves toward the upside, which bring us, of course, to an A, a B, and a C toward the downside again, of course, as a big correction for Bitcoin. However, higher potential here is that you are in a bull run again, of course, that you finish 5 waves toward the upside, and you're looking, of course, for higher prices impulsively and not correctively. Now, of course, this 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 will finish your wave 3 or your wave C, as you mentioned, as ABC or 1, 2, 3. Meaning right now, if you are in a big wave 3, you are looking after, of course, this wave 2. You are looking for a wave 3 over 3 because, of course, you are in the orange wave 3 of this blue wave 3. And that means your wave 2 can reach the minimum target, of course, for 0.38, but Bitcoin, only on the logarithmic chart, tends sometimes to not hit even the 0.38. And that because, of course, Bitcoin is always very volatile, especially when it comes to a wave 3 over 3. And that means, of course, the wave 2 can be very shallow in price. And of course, especially that we have a very strong support here in this area before, of course, touching the 0.38. We might, of course, retrace in 3 waves toward the downside here in the middle between the 0.23 and the 0.38, and then start with the wave 3 impulsive wave toward the upside. If we take a closer look at the daily chart, we have here a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, the impulse that we talked about it just a few minutes ago in the weekly and the all-time history. We are looking right now at the first leg of this corrective wave that we would like to finish it around the 0.38 FIB time. This is the minimum requirement for the time, of course, based on the whole wave 1 here. So the whole wave 1 time require, of course, a wave 2 to finish around the 20 November 2025 at least. This is the minimum requirement. Of course, it can range even for longer time before moving toward the upside. We can see the stronghold support here that we have, of course, between the 0.23 and the 0.38, which, of course, it might unfold a wave 3 toward the upside, potentially not touching the 0.38 fib level, only on logarithmic chart. Again, I repeat, only for Bitcoin. Now, this wave A, of course, it can be a 3 waves toward the downside, preferably that it unfold a 3 waves toward the downside, ABC, to finish a wave A, then moving for a wave B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This would be the most typical correction, of course, for Bitcoin, and based on the all-time histories, this is what we saw after every bull run. We saw, of course, a typical ABC 3-wave correction. Now, currently, this is a very complex structure that we are looking at. Now, we can see clearly a 3 waves finished already here for a wave A. We are looking potentially for 3 waves up as a running flat or WX and a Y, finishing a wave B. I prefer to call it here a running flat, and then moving potentially, of course, as a wave C in a diagonal. Ending diagonal is one of the possibilities that it might finish, of course, this ABC for a wave A at the 1-to-1 fib level taken from this point here to the A and to the B, giving us a 1-to-1 fib level for a wave A. Now the question mark is, did we finish a wave A potentially here, for example? It can be because, of course, we have finished already 3 waves, but those 3 waves are very short in comparison with the time required, of course, for this correction. Meaning higher potential, of course, that we might still, of course, arrange here for an ABC to finish this wave A. Now, that is also a possibility that your wave A finished at this point as well, where you have finished W, X, Y, X, and a Z corrective wave. You're looking for a wave B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I would say this is like a mid or in between option rather than being finished here or here. So because it is a very complex structure, yeah, it is of course very complex to say where the wave A right now has finished. Did it finish as at this point, or still looking for this point? Now on the 2-hour chart, we're gonna see, of course, the 3 options that we might have in all these scenarios, where the wave A has finished here, here, or of course still looking for lower. Let's move on the wave 2 as the first possibility that it is the highest here, which is a W, X, and a Y, finishing, of course, this wave A in the middle rather than here. So potentially you have finished here a W, X, and a Y. You have a W, you have an X, you have a Y here to finish a wave A in 3 waves corrective. After this, you got, of course, a W. You're looking for an X finished, and you're looking for a wave C toward the upside. It can be, of course, an ABC even expanding flat. This wave B as an expanding flat would like to finish in between the perfect time as 1-to-1 fib time and the 1.38 fib time as well. As you can see, we have already passed the 1-to-1 fib time currently, and you're looking still for higher to finish in between potentially the blue box here, between the 0.5 fib level 0.618 taken from the A, start of the A till the end of the A here, of course, and then, of course, looking to finish this wave B and then moving directly toward the downside for a big wave C. This, of course, will represent, therefore, your bear market, that it might unfold, of course, a wave 3 later on. So this is currently the highest possibility. Another possibility is the W, X, Y, X, and a Z, where you have finished, of course, the wave A even after this point. So I would say this possibility has, of course, also a high potential, where you would like to finish here or to start a new wave B, meaning a wave B might, of course, take more time, of course, than the previous scenario. And this is the difference. And you are starting here a fresh wave B. It can be a zigzag toward the upside, it can be a flat, it can be a triangle, or it can be a complex structure with an X, of course, in between. Don't forget, in this scenario, even there is a potential to take the all-time high one more time again. How? It is, of course, by having a huge zigzag toward the upside, taking the all-time high, of course, and, of course, bluffing the traders, and, yeah, looking for higher prices, new all-time high, thinking for a new bull run, and then moving towards the downside massively for a wave C, and, of course, continuation for this bear market. Don't forget that, of course, this is a correction, A, and you have a 3 waves up B, and of course wave C toward the downside will create, of course, an expanding flat, which it can be the case of a bearish market. Now the last scenario, which is a much more bearish and still looking for a wave A to be finished, of course, at this point here. Now at this point here, of course, we are looking for an ending diagonal, meaning you have finished 3 waves, exactly a wave A here. You're looking at a finished 3 waves for a wave B, and you're searching here for a wave 2 in an ending diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Preferably to touch, of course, the 1-to-1 fib level taken from the A here to the B based on it, and then of course giving us 1-to-1 fib level toward the downside. Now let's see of course together what is the highest possibility between those three main possibilities right now, which are of course the highest. We move right now for the micro on the 1-hour chart. We can see of course that this scenario, if we are in an ending diagonal, you would like to see of course a zigzag or a correction three ways for a wave 2. However, this can still be very possible since you have an A, a B, and currently you're looking for a wave C. The wave C has to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. You are in a wave 4 finish. Potentially you're moving in a wave 5 to finish of course this A 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 for a wave C, finishing a wave 2 here, and then moving toward the downside. So very high potential of course, and that because of course of the correction characters that we have in this wave. Now in this scenario where you are looking for W, X, Y, X, and a Z, you finish a wave Z, you finish wave W potentially, or a wave A. You're looking here at something like a very corrective as well, because of course of the correction of a wave A here. You're looking for an A, a B, and a C, or your C can be even an ending diagonal, for example, finishing a wave C in the high and then moving toward the downside continuation for a new structure, which it can of course unfold and use three waves toward the downside potentially rather than an impulse, and then one more move toward the upside where you would like to finish your wave B. In this case scenario, again, you move toward the downside for a major wave C. And that means of course a huge A, B, and a C is going to unfold after this one. Now, the last scenario, which is also high possibility, is unfolding a little bit higher prices, considering that this whole wave is gonna be also your wave A. You're gonna have a wave B here, and potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or it can be of course as well a flat or a zigzag, and of course finishing a wave B as well in this potentially in this scenario between the 0.618 and the 0.5 taken from the all-time high to the A here, and then of course moving potentially for a wave B. Maybe even it can be continuation for something higher, as we mentioned in the daily, taking the all-time high and then moving toward the downside. So the possibilities are very, very high to move even for higher, knowing that even we are corrective here, it's not necessarily to be very, very impulsive. Don't forget, if you create three waves up, three waves down, you can still move for higher in a wave C later on. So basically right now on the 15-minute chart for the micro, we are still looking for this wave toward the upside. Yesterday we were looking of course for the 0.38 and to retrace toward the upside from there. And I mentioned of course preferably we were at this area, preferably that we take the 0.38 before moving toward the upside. However, the price even dived or sinked even much more than the 0.38, breaking the 0.5, touching the 0.618, very close to the invalidation point. However, it started of course to unfold a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 again, potentially to take the all-time high. But be careful as well. You would like to take this invalidation, which actually we just took it, which is nice to see it taken. So basically we took the invalidation of 1, 2, 3, and then 4. It is not allowed of course to interfere with your zone 1, meaning of course you are looking right now for higher possibility, since you have finished three waves toward the downside, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 to take the all-time high. Don't forget that this is gonna finish of course a structure A, B, and a C, and we're gonna see if next what we gonna have. Are we gonna have an impulse, or are we gonna have three waves toward the downside? The difference is, if you get a three waves toward the downside, you are looking at those scenarios where you are going to finish a bigger wave B toward the upside. If we get an impulse here, meaning you are looking to this scenario, which is ending diagonal, because of course after finishing a wave 2 here, if you see an impulse 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this might play of course the zigzag for a wave 3, which should be an impulse, correction, impulse toward the downside. That was it for Bitcoin. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your likes and comments, and trade safe. Bye bye.